Good wishes, dear children. How are you? I hope you all are in best of your spirits and enjoying your learning sessions with me, your economics teacher, Navneet Kaur. Dear learners, I am back with another exciting educational session for you. Globalization and Indian economy. This is the fourth chapter of your economics textbook for grade 10. Children, in this session, what are we going to learn? We are going to talk about what globalization is. Secondly, we'll talk about what is understood by international business. What is investment and foreign investment? What do we mean by multinational companies? Also, we'll talk about the role of the multinational companies in globalization. Children, what are the factors that influence globalization? And also, in the last phases of this chapter, I shall try to communicate with you about the effects of globalization in our country, India. So, I hope you all are set for this fun learning session. Let's try to understand some important concepts and the terms that we need to understand before we go with the chapter Globalization and Indian economy. So my dear children, the first term I would like to discuss is the word globalization itself, the term globalization. What is meant by this term? Dear learners, you must have seen a globe, right? Globe depicts the continents and the countries, the oceans, the rivers and the seas on the earth, right? Children, the word globalization has been derived from the word globe. So, globalization is the global concept of how the services, materials, technologies are traveling across the globe, and the process is understood as globalization. Globalization is the process of interaction and integration among the people, companies and governments of different nations. A process driven by international trade and investment and aided by the information technology. This process has effects on the environment or culture, on political systems, on economic development and prosperity, and on human physical well-being in the societies around the world. Now, economics is a social science concerned with the production, distribution and consumption of goods and services. It studies how the individuals, businesses, governments and nations make choices about how to allocate the resources. Today we are going to talk about Indian economy. So we shall also talk about the impact of globalization on Indian economy. So my dear children, since these important terms are pretty clear to us now, let's move ahead in the chapter to understand them in a deeper sense. Dear learners, when you go to the market, you see so many companies selling mobiles. There are, in fact, countless numbers of mobile companies in the market. You can really go on counting, think about the brands that you know about the mobiles. So, there are so many mobiles in the market. So, dear children, you also see so many cars on road. Do you notice them? They belong to various companies, right? And they have various different features. They have different appearances, different colors, and different prices as well. So, we can see many cars, mobiles and other products, goods and services always around us in various forms. We see brands and brand tags around us always. What does this mean? Yes, this means that today's market culture is consumer-oriented. Dear children, a consumer is the one who enjoys and utilizes the final products and services. He purchases these goods and services and relishes the final product or the final nectar. All he requires is money to buy all these products and services. He can buy any product of any brand, of any model according to his budget and his necessity. He can purchase his comfort and the latest trends and the fashions with his money. He can enjoy as many products he wants to buy. So the point is that markets today are changed and new. They are more modern. If we talk of the latest trends in the markets, we can observe changes in the previous markets and today's markets very clearly. Earlier, there were not much varieties in the products available in the markets. But today, there are lots of varieties in colors and features, sizes and differences in price ranges, etc. available in the products one wishes to buy. These varieties are available on large scale today. And what's the main cause of all this? Why is there so much difference between the previous markets and the present markets? The reason is the production across the countries. Earlier, the producers had not so much sources. Now, what do you understand by production across the countries? This means that production which is done within the boundaries of one country only. Not like today, international boundaries business is taking place. Until the middle of the 20th century, production was largely organized within the countries. Colonies such as India exported raw material and foodstuff and imported finished goods. Trade was the main channel connecting distant countries. This was before the large companies called multinational corporations emerged on the scene. A multinational company is a company that owns or controls production in more than one nation. MNCs set up offices and factories for production in regions where they can get cheap labor and other resources. This is done so that the cost of production is low and MNCs can earn greater profits. Now you must be thinking, what are these multinational corporations? In the beginning of the chapter also, I told you that we shall be discussing about multinational corporations. So dear learners, multinational companies are those corporations that own or control production of goods and services in at least one country other than their own home country. Now what does this mean? Initially we studied only raw material would go out of the country, but no country could set up productions in other countries. Production was allowed only in own country. But with the arrival of MNCs, wider scope for international production has been observed. It was now possible to set up production houses in other countries as well. Now, let's try to understand spreading of production by an MNC. A large MNC producing industrial equipment designs its products in research centers in United States and then has the components manufactured in China. These are shipped to Mexico and Eastern Europe, where products are assembled and finished products are sold all over the world. Meanwhile, the company's customer care is carried out through call centers located in India. This is a call center in Bangalore, equipped with telecom facilities and access to internet to provide information and support to the customers abroad. In this example, MNC is not only selling its finished products globally, but more important, the goods and the services are produced globally. As a result, production is organized in increasingly complex ways. The production process is divided into small parts and spread across the globe. In the above example, China provides the advantage of being a cheap manufacturing location. Mexico and Eastern Europe are useful for their closeness to the markets of US, that is United States, and Europe. India has highly skilled engineers who can understand the technical aspects of production. It also has educated English-speaking youth who can provide the customer care services. And all this probably can mean 50 to 60% cost savings for the MNC. The advantage of spreading out production across the borders to the multinationals can be truly immense. Now let's talk about the multinational companies. What do? They do investments. Now let's talk about investments. What are these investments? It refers to the expenditure incurred by the producers on the purchase of capital goods such as machinery and plants, etc. In general, MNCs or multinational companies set up a production where it is close to the markets, where there is skilled and unskilled labor available at low cost, and where the availability of other factors of production is assured. In addition, MNCs might look for government policies that look after their interests. But the most common route for MNC investments is to buy up local companies and then to expand production. MNCs with huge wealth can quite easily do so. To take an example, Cargill Foods, a very large American MNC, has bought over smaller Indian companies such as Parak Foods. Parak Foods had built large marketing network in various parts of India where its brand was well reputed. Also, Parak Foods had 4 oil refineries whose control has now shifted to the Cargill. Cargill is now the largest producer of edible oil in India, with a capacity to make 5 million pouches daily. In fact, many of the top MNCs have wealth exceeding the entire budget of the developing country governments. With such enormous wealth, imagine the power and influence of these MNCs. At times, multinational companies set up production jointly with some of the local companies of these countries. The benefits of the local company of such joint production is twofold. First, MNCs can provide money for additional investments like buying new machines for latest production. And second, MNCs might bring them with the latest technology for production. Having assured themselves of these conditions, MNCs set up factories and offices for production. The money that is spent to buy assets such as land, buildings, machines, and other equipment is called investment. And the investment made by a multinational company is called foreign investment. I hope you understand. Let me repeat, the investments made by MNCs is called foreign investment. Any investment is made with the hope that these assets will earn profits. There is another way in which MNCs control production. Large MNCs in developed countries place orders for production with small producers. Garments, footwear, sport items are some examples of industries where production is carried by a large number of small producers around the world. The products are supplied to the MNCs, which then sell these under their own brand name to the customers. The large number of multinational companies have tremendous power to determine price, quality, delivery, and labor conditions for these distant producers. Now let's talk about foreign trade and the integration of markets. For a long time, foreign trade has been the main channel connecting countries. In history, you might have read about trade routes connecting India and South Asia to the markets both in East and the West, and excessive trade that took place along these routes. Also, you would remember that it was trading interests which attracted various trading companies such as East India Company to India. What then is the basic function of foreign trade? For a long time, foreign trade has been the main channel of connecting the countries. In the history, you would have read about trade routes connecting India and South Asia to the markets of East and West, and extensive trade that took along these routes. Also, you would have remembered that it was trading interests which attracted various trading companies such as East India Company to India. In general, with the opening of trade, goods travel from one market to another. Choice of goods in the market rises. Prices of similar goods in two markets tend to become equal. And producers in the same countries now closely compete against each other, even though they are separated by thousands of miles. Foreign trade thus results in connecting markets or integrating the markets in different countries. Let us see the effect of foreign trade through the example of Chinese toy. Chinese manufacturers learn of an opportunity to export toys to India, where toys are sold at high price. They started exporting plastic toys to India. Buyers in India now have the option of choosing between Indian and the Chinese toys. Because of the cheaper prices and new designs, Chinese toys have become more popular in Indian markets. Within a year, 70 to 80% of the toy shops have replaced Indian toys with the Chinese toys. Toys are now cheaper in Indian markets than earlier. Let us see the effect of foreign trade through the example of Chinese toys in the Indian markets. What is happening here? As a result of trade, Chinese toys come into the Indian markets. In the competition between Indian and Chinese toys prove better. Indian buyers have greater choice of toys and at lower prices. For the Chinese toy markets, this provides the opportunity to expand business. The opposite is true for Indian toy makers. They face losses as their toys are selling at low prices, much less. My dear learners, now I think you have an idea of globalization. You can also talk to your friends about international business. You have also understood about investment and international investment, and you also have an idea of multinational companies. Now you can talk about multinational companies to your families, to your friends and your parents as well. Dear learners, with this I would like to take your leave. Stay connected, keep waiting for the second part of this chapter.